Hi, and welcome back to your relationship roadmap. In the previous videos, we've talked about the framework, the overall framework of a relationship being like, respect, and trust being the foundations, then connection, and you're having to connect before you communicate. So in this video, we're going to talk about connection. So you've got to connect before you can communicate. Now there's 5 basic levels of connection. Now when I ask people this, it's really interesting the answers they give. What I've done with your relationship roadmap is just create simple models for people to easily understand relationships. So if you want, just pause for a moment and just see if you can work out what the 5 levels of connections are. Now, I don't know whether you paused or not. If you did, good on you. If not, you just want the answers from me. All right, here we go. First level is spiritual, intellectual, emotional, physical, and sexual. I break out sexual and physical because if you think about it, if you've got some really close friends and there's like, respect, and trust, and you connect on a spiritual, intellectual, emotional, and physical level, you have a really strong relationship. In terms of partner relationships, my belief is that you need to have the strongest connections with your partner. If someone has an affair, well, guess what? The sexual connection has just gone to someone else. Sometimes people will have an emotional affair where they are spending time with someone else, they're sharing their life with someone else and not with their partner. And again, if we relate that back to trust, that person isn't feeling safe to share what their inner world with their own partner, and they're actually sharing it with someone else. Now that can build a connection which can damage the relationship. So that's where emotional affairs come from. And again, if you think about when you take affairs outside of it, now I'll get really crass here if you like. If you have a sexual relationship with someone else, you could bring an STI or an STD back into the relationship. You're polluting your relationship. You're ruining that connection. What does spiritual mean to you? Not so much spiritual connection, but what does spiritual mean to you? I deal with many people from different religions, different walks of life. Some people say they're not spiritual. But here's something to consider, because I like to keep things really simple. If you want to go on a spiritual journey, then there's just one question you need to ask. And that is, who am I really? Who am I really? For example, if I lost a hand or a finger, would I still be me? Hopefully you'd say yes. I've just lost a hand or a finger. And people have phantom pain. Am I my emotions? Do my emotions define me? Some people say, look, he's an angry person. So they're starting to create an identity of an angry person. Well, think about this. Emotions come and go. You can be angry one minute, you can be laughing the next. I have a body. I have emotions. They don't define me. Next, am I my thoughts? Think about this one. Now, if I was born in Russia, I would be speaking Russian. If I was born in China, I'd be speaking Mandarin and thinking Mandarin and writing those funny characters. No offense, Chinese people. We have something like 60,000 thoughts a day. and pretty much the same thoughts we have today we had yesterday. Where do most of those thoughts come from? Most of those thoughts will come from our parents. Most of our attitudes and beliefs and values come from those people around us. So even our thoughts are given to us. Here's another question. Are you your name? If you have children, when a baby is born, it doesn't come screaming into the world, screaming out its name. When I came into the world, I didn't go, "Hey world, it's Keith." In fact, it was a nurse that named me. My parents had two choices. They had Douglas Bryan and Keith William. And they turned to the nurse and said, "What do you think?" And the nurse said, "Well, he looks like a Keith William." That's how I got my name. That's how random it was. I could have ended up a Douglas Bryan. That's my brother's name. If you have children, you'll notice up until round about the age of 2, when you are talking to them, you might say it's Keith's toy. And I'll be saying Keith's toy, Keith's toy. And then at some point, I recognize that Keith is my name. And I will go, mine. And at that point, my identity starts to form. And I start to view the world from my point of view. What's mine, what's not mine. And that's where our ego comes into play, and that's where we start to get messed up. So the challenge here for you is to really, if you want to go on a spiritual journey, just ask, who am I really? And consider that you're not your body. You're not your emotions. You have a body, you have emotions, you have thoughts. You're not even your name. Now that will really mess you up. You've built a whole identity around this. But what is that part of you that just knows? That part of you that knows truth? When I moved to Perth in Western Australia many years ago, my father was dying. He had a leaking heart valve. And one day I was meditating and I asked for 3 things. I asked the universe, God, whatever you believe. So in meditation I asked for 3 things. I can never remember the second, but I know I got it. But the first was, I asked, when is my father going to die? And I instantly and immediately got the answer, 21 days. Part of me just knew without any logic or reasoning that that was truth. Now, a part of me must have already known because 2 weeks earlier, I'd actually booked return flights from Perth to Melbourne. Melbourne's over the other side of Australia, which was about at the 14-day mark. The third request I made was to be there for my father's last breath. So at about the 10-day mark, my mother rings up to say my father's agitated, meaning he's upset. He's not feeling well. I knew in my soul, in my being, that he wouldn't die immediately. I knew beyond any shadow of a doubt that I didn't need to rush over there. I just simply booked return flights from Melbourne to Christchurch in New Zealand. And then I fly over, and it's at night, and my parents live on a farm, and the farm's about 40 minutes out of Christchurch, and friends pick me up, and I get out to the farm, and within half an hour I'm in the back of an ambulance heading to Christchurch Public Hospital with my father. They admit him and they assess him and they say he probably won't last the night. So in a public hospital, they find him a room in the severe stroke ward where there's a hospital bed and there's this old leather chair. And I really wish the old leather chair could talk, because I wonder where the rest of its family is. You know, it's all cracked. And it'd be really nice to talk to the chair to find out who's been sitting in it and what it has heard. So my mother says, let's go back out to the farm. And I say, no, you don't leave your dying husband in hospital on his own. And I chose to do the night shift. I said someone had to be with him 24/7. So I'm in hospital and my father had sleep apnea. So I'm sitting in the chair overnight listening and counting as his breathing slows, wondering if this was going to be his last breath. And I'm reflecting back on my life, thinking about how he gave me life and how I can give back to him by just being there for him. Anyway, a day or so later, he stabilises, they move him out to the ward, and then he's moved back out to the farm, and in the front room of our farm, which is a bit larger, they put the hospital bed, and there's my father. And above his head is a deer head with 12 points, because he used to love deer stalking. So there's my dad, the 12-pointed deer head, in the hospital bed. He's not eating a lot, he's not saying a lot. And my mother and I are sleeping in that front room. And it's a bit after the 21-day mark, it might be 23, 24. And one morning, I just get this urge to get up a little bit earlier. It's just on dawn. And I'm standing over my father, and I'm counting as his breathing is slowing. And I'm there when he takes his last 3 breaths. And finally, my father has passed away peacefully. And I look down at his body, and it's no longer my father. There is something missing. It's almost like his soul or spirit got up to go and work somewhere else in the morning. And when the undertaker came out, I quite easily and comfortably just helped put him in a bag. And my brother said he couldn't do that. And I couldn't understand why, because for me, that wasn't my father. There was no longer any life force in him. So I believe that we have a soul. I believe we have part of us that's alive in us. And that there's a whole lot of noise, there's a whole lot of stuff that has been given to us by other people. So the spiritual journey for me is to really ask that question, who am I really? Because a lot of your behaviours, a lot of the ways that you interact in a relationship have actually been given to you by other people, and that's not truly who you are inside. I'm going to talk in another video about children and the blessing of children. But just entertain that relationships are all about connection, and the stronger your connection, the stronger your relationship. And you can always be working on your connection. You can always be working on your connection at the spiritual level. You can always be working on your connection at the intellectual level, the emotional level, the physical level, and the sexual level. So until our next video, in which I'm actually going to give you a strategy about creating a safe environment, have fun, contemplate this. See you later.